Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We have one of my favorite kinds of videos today because CRPA has, dropped another lawsuit. That's right. California Rifle and Pistol Association, along with Gun Owners of California and the Second Amendment Foundation, have dropped the lawsuit suing the city of Glendale over the sensitive places issue. Now, the last time that we saw the sensitive places issue be in a prominent area, it was in the Bruin case where Justice Thomas went into great detail defining that a government cannot just make an entire city or county or state a sensitive place. That was promptly followed by some of our California legislators trying to make all of California a sensitive place. That's what Senate Bill 918 was trying to do. Fortunately, it didn't pass, but I'm sure we will see it again next year. So let's dig into this lawsuit. So first, we have Glendale Municipal Code generally bans possession on city property of any firearm or ammunition and does not make an exception for those who have a license to carry a concealed handgun. The term city property is defined to include effectively all public property within the city of Glendale, as well as some private property, with only exceptions being streets, roads, and sidewalks. So in sum, other than the streets, the roads, or the sidewalks, the ordinance makes it unlawful for any typical law-abiding adult to possess a firearm or ammunition on any public property, publicly controlled property, or publicly affiliated private property in the city of Glendale. So there you have it. If you are not living in the city of Glendale, that is exactly what it is. They've made the city of Glendale via an ordinance basically entirely a sensitive place. So currently it is unlawful basically to be a CCW holder and walk into any public establishment in that city, which is why we're bringing this lawsuit here. So going into more of the lawsuit here, off limits for anyone possessing firearms. This, by the way, is the claims of CRPA, Second Amendment Foundation, and Gun Owners of California. Off limits for anyone possessing firearms who respect the law, that is. Such limitations only actually stop law-abiding people from possessing firearms, and such people are not a threat anyways. Laws like this ordinance do not stop criminals and mass killers who are not troubled by violating rules related to carrying firearms. Instead, they give individuals with ill intent soft targets where people are unlikely to be armed to resist them. In sum, the ordinance burdens the right of self-defense and the law-abiding while empowering violent defenders who know that they are unlikely to face armed resistance at many public places in Glendale. And this is an argument that we've been making for a while. We've seen a lot of bad things happen when, specific areas are decriminalized. We see that in San Francisco. We see the statistics showing that the mass majority of mass shooting events happen in firearm-free zones or gun-free zones, whatever you want to call them. So this is just an iteration of that, and now they're trying to, do it at the Senate level, the state legislature level in California, when we already know how the story pans out. That kind of makes a lawsuit like this all the more important to have, because when we create basically a gun-free state, the lawless, or the people who don't obey those laws, are going to be the only ones who are actually carrying these firearms, and then there's no way to defend ourselves. Going down a little bit here, while it noted that there may be a new and analogous sensitive place to those historically considered as such, the court also noted that the term could not be so broad as to include all places where people typically congregate. And this is taken from the Bruin decision. Again, Justice Thomas was very precise in letting us all know that when he says sensitive places, you specifically cannot make a large area a sensitive place just to, as a government, get out of allowing people to carry these firearms. Because at the end of the day, these law-abiding citizens are carrying these firearms to protect themselves. So you can't just make everything a sensitive place. Now, to the allegations. The city has the burden to prove that all areas included in the term city property are sensitive places. explaining that the government must justify its regulation by demonstrating that it is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearms regulation. The city cannot meet that burden. While the few particular portions of city property could conceivably qualify as sensitive places, how the city defines that term is unconstitutionally overboard. So this is basically saying that the way Glendale, created the term sensitive places for the city of Glendale is above and beyond the way that the term sensitive places is meant to be used. It is unconstitutionally keeping people from having CCWs and being able to carry firearms to defend themselves in a legal way. So we're challenging it. And while, it's going to be good that we have this lawsuit going forward, hopefully get this ordinance removed from the city of Glendale, we got to remember, this has much larger implications. Senate Bill 918 did not pass last year. Largely in part to, some of the lobbying that was being done up at the Capitol and the addition of the urgency clause that they tried to add onto it. But make no mistake about it, Senate Bill 918 will be back next year, and that will be a fight to keep California away from being a sensitive place. It's going to pay lots of dividends if we can get a good ruling in a lawsuit like this that basically sets precedent that says, hey, you can't just make everywhere a sensitive place. So when it comes to these laws that are coming down, it's going to be important that we choose the right legislators going forward to actually make these laws. We need to stop seeing awful laws come down like this, and the only way that we can start doing that is by electing the right people. So just as a reminder, we're coming into an election. Go ahead. We'll leave the description down, or we'll leave the URL in the description below. Please visit the CRPA voter guide. It's on our website. It goes all the way from the federal level to, in some areas, down to the city level. We need to make sure and have the Second Amendment as a priority when we vote. So please go ahead and check it out. We're definitely going to be, keeping track of this one as it goes on. So be sure to tune in for those updates.